Shalom. This isn't a personal attack towards pro-Palestinians. However, this is a response to pro-Palestinian claims and lies. So, first off, let's talk about the claim that Israeli soldiers were, quote, sucking children's genitals, which is outlandish. But if you want to go over how this is false, I will admit, as an Israeli myself, there isn't much proof I can give it to you to debunk this claim, but just remember I am what you would consider a debater. So don't thank God too early. So firstly, let's turn to Issa al-Qassar, who is an ex-Hamas leader or general, who said, quote, "We allied with the communist Chinese. Yes, we did. Our goal was to lie to the public about Israel. Yes, we were the ones who made the propaganda of Israeli soldiers sucking toddlers' genitals." So here, Issa al-Qassar actually admits that it was Hamas, or, made the propaganda and false information that Israel was doing this. But if this is true, which was confirmed by Hamas generals, Palestinian theologists, debaters such as Usaf Maham Al and Khalid Unar Santoha, Hamas's own leaders and even scholars agree that it couldn't have been the Israelis or that the IDF never did this act. I will use my evidence, which I have found, instead of using others, but I will give their reasons. So, I was going to do the other ones, but I don't know their names, so here's the ones that I do know. So, Hamas generals. The Hamas generals who argued against the ideas of the IDF sucking little children's genitals was almost every single Hamas general in the Palestinian Authoritative Office, or the PAO, and the Hamas HTD, basically. But that's too many. Okay, so here's the top three, which I do know of, because these are the ones I can remember the best. Umayyah Sin Yaha. Umayyah argues that there is no evidence for this act in response to a claim pro-Palestinians make, which is, quote, a video of a soldier was sucking a child's genitals appeared on the website, quote, Gorsi, which is an uncensored media for gore, illegal activity, and more. And if you want to go to Gorsi, you can, but I have been there and it's disgusting. Do not go there. But, which is true, but Umayyah argued, quote, the soldier in the video wasn't a part of the IDF, nor was he Israeli. Instead, he was a Syrian soldier who lived in Qatar, which is a completely valid point. Completely it is. Pro-Palestinians responded to this by saying, quote, where's your proof for this claim about the soldier? Umayyah said the soldier was identified as Muslim scholar and Syrian soldier, quote, Mohammed Sinya Shalasha, who was living in Al-Waqra, which is in Qatar, and even Sinya admitted this in prison, which took place in Saudi Arabia. He said, quote, indeed, it was in fact me, but I did it. It's what yours and I, Prophet Muhammad, did. Now, which is a completely different topic, so I won't get too much into that. At this point, Umayyah actually does make a very valid point, and was also verified by the same, the best Saudi Arabian scholars such as Yashel al-Nashal. Secondly, Hussam Badran argues that if you look at over 200 available public and sometimes even private re-uploads EXIF data, they all show the same data. He argues that the EXIF data shows that it did in fact happen in Qatar. At Al-Shamal, specifically at the Madinat Ash-Shamal, and that it was taken at 260707 North, 511227 East. He also argues that if you look at numerous records, recounts, and other evidence, it points to the Qataris and/or Iraqis and Syrians, and that there's no proof to explain that the IDF did this horrible act. He even points out how that Muslim scholar Washu Nashawini from Ireland points out the simple fact that if it was Israel, why would they do this in Qatar? Plus, Qatar actually does ban Israelis, and especially the IDF, so it just completely couldn't have been Israelis nor the IDF. Now, here's a pretty good one. William Nashal, who is a Saudi Arabian Sunni scholar. And just a fun fact, my name is William Adel Medina, so this guy, William Nashali, is pretty similar, but not really. We're from different countries, and we're both different things and different religions. And one's a scholar, one's not. One's just one who wants to be a scholar. Anyways, William Nashali is a Saudi Arabian Sunni scholar who argues against pro-Palestinian, saying, quote, "There is no definable evidence that the IDF did this act." He mentions the fact that any evidence that we do have of the IDF leads to, quote, "Waskali Nebutuah." I don't know if I said that right, but Nebutuah. Kind of like Hatuah, huh? That was a double-S joke, my bad. Who was actually an Iraqi teacher. Mohammed Sinya Lasha, who was a Syrian soldier who lived in Qatar, and others who were neither Israeli, Jewish, both ethnically and religiously, and none of them actually supported Israel, nor was a part of the IDF. He's not exactly the best, but he's there. Now, I will give my evidence for this. If we look at the supposed video of the IDF doing this act, there is absolutely no evidence, or visible or audio evidence, which points to the IDF. They instead point to Qatar and Syria and sometimes Iraq. My evidence for this is this. In a quote, in a video on Gorsi titled, quote, "IDF soldiers sucking toddlers' genitals" on Gorsi, which I mentioned earlier, we see that the supposed, quote, IDF soldier was wearing a Syrian headband, speaking Arabic, and saying, quote, "This is for Allahi," in Arabic. And at 2 minutes 14 seconds to 2 minutes 21 seconds, and he says, quote, "And they Jews shall have their heads chopped off for Wallahi as those whom Allah has made," in Aramaic, and not Aramaic, Arabic. And later in 3 minutes 18 seconds to 3 minutes 23 seconds, he said, "Israel shall never be forgiven." Does this sound like an Israeli soldier to you? Tell me. Because if it does, I don't know what to tell you. And like Hussam Badran pointed out, if we look at the video's IF data, it was taken in Syria, in Al-Hasaka and Al-Manager, if I said that right. I think it's Al-Manager, but don't know. So all this evidence point to not Israel, but rather to Qatar and Syria. Now, I want to go over these. The three-phase Israel-Hamas war ceasefire in May 6th of 2024. The three-phase Israel-Hamas war ceasefire was a ceasefire Israel offered as an argument to release Palestinian guilty prisoners for free, and Israel was going to get nothing. Now, pro-Palestinians might say I'm wrong because the three-phase Israel-Hamas war ceasefire was actually endorsed by Hamas, which is partially correct, though. When the three-phase Israel-Hamas ceasefire says, quote, endorsed by Hamas, it doesn't mean started by Hamas. The three-phase Israel-Hamas war ceasefire was in fact offered by Israel, but it was proposed by Hamas to Egypt. But then Israel offered it to Hamas. Now, this isn't specifically what the ceasefire said, but I'll summarize it for you. So basically, Israel must release guilty Palestinians, including rapists, criminals, terrorists, and more, and must give Hamas and Palestine more of northern Gaza and remove militants from East Jerusalem or West Bank. In exchange, Hamas will not support any attack nor commit an attack against Israel. Now, this wasn't really a fair exchange for Israel, but at least Israel didn't have to worry about any attacks from Hamas and Palestine, so Israel and Hamas both accepted it. But guess what? Not even a week later, on May of 9th, 2024, Hamas launched an attack on East Jerusalem in Israel and used 3 Iranian missiles onto an Israeli deactivated military base. But it still had people in it. Pro-Palestinians will argue that Israel violated because on May 11, 2024, Israel launched an attack on Gaza and Hamas. However, this was 2 days after Hamas violated the ceasefire. The Israeli attack on Gaza and Hamas wasn't a violation of the ceasefire, as the ceasefire ended straight after Hamas attacked Israel on May 9th. Also, Israel attacked Gaza and the West Bank because Hamas attacked Israel. It was just simply a response. Now, let's look at 24 November 2023 to 30 November 2023 Israel-Hamas war. This treaty, which doesn't really have a formal name, was proposed by Israel. The agreement was a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas soldiers. The reason people call it 24 November 2023 to 30 November 2023 ceasefire was because it was violated on Hamas on the 30th of November in 2023. Israel stopped all military operations, deactivated all military bases along and inside the Israeli-Palestinian border, but still kept some open at the Israeli-Egyptian border, some at near Gaza, and also the Israeli-Jordanian border, and the Gaza-Egyptian border to stop the smuggling of weapons. In exchange, Israel did get peace for a while, and Hamas were given free food, water, electricity, oil, gas, and other resources by Israel. And even Israel helped Palestinian organizations build 200 plus houses for unhoused children, or at least that's what they planned. On the 29th of November in 2023, Hamas militants passed through the Iron Wall, which is a wall between Gaza and Israel. Hamas militants walked through Netivot and Beersheba, while Israeli troops lined up, but they never interfered or interacted with the militants. But at one point, the militants were tired, which they were taken to the Maccabee Health Services and were aided by Israel. They were given food and water. They continued to walk through Beersheba, where they stopped at a localized area. And on 30th of November in 2023, Hamas attacked Beersheba, killing 200 plus Israeli civilians, 90 plus children, and 50 plus IDF soldiers. Later, Lebanese leader of Hamas, or general, quote, Issa Qassar, commented, quote, "We have planned this attack for a month and 3 weeks. We do not seek peace with Israel. We will kill every Christ follower in Israel and hunt the Jews." Now let's look at the British Commission Office solution. Now, prior to the British and the UN Commission, Israel and Palestine both agreed on the British Commission Office solution, or BCSO, which was disregarded and dissolved. But it was actually brought up by Israel again and was offered to Hamas by Israel. The treaty was basically this: Israel would give aid to Palestinians for free, release 450 plus convicted Palestinian criminals in exchange for Palestine not to attack Israel. Around 4 weeks after the treaty was agreed by both Israel and Palestine and Hamas, Palestine attacked West Jerusalem in Israel and killed 109 civilians, killed 34 children, and killed 14 IDF soldiers, and left 300 plus people injured, and an extra 93 injured. So while Israel was giving Palestine aid, they were attacking Israel. So those are just the names, or at least some of the lies that I can name. Don't take this as an attack of pro-Palestinians, but this is more of a response. These are all clearly lies, and if you disagree, please show me how. Bye, and may God bless you.